Hey and welcome to the Daily Arsenal News Show. Let's begin with our daily news. Three Saudi clubs want to sign Arsenal's most important player. Arsenal star Thomas Partey could be sold this summer, and the three clubs from Saudi Arabia are reportedly interested in his services. The Ghanaian joined the Gunners back in the summer of 2020. He has mostly been brilliant when he has been fit, but he did struggle with injuries in his first two seasons at the club. After a difficult end to last season, reports have emerged that Partey could be sold this summer. CBS Sports names the three Saudi Arabian clubs interested in his services. Thomas Partey was one of Arsenal's best players from the first game of last season, right up until the start of April. He held the midfield together on his own, and many even claimed he is the best defensive midfielder in the entire Premier League, ahead of Manchester United fan favourite Casemiro. Darren Bent even went as far as calling Partey the most important player at Arsenal, ahead of the likes of Bukayo Saka, Martin Odegaard, and William Saliba. However, a terrible dip in form in the games against Liverpool, West Ham, Southampton, and Manchester City in April forced Arteta to drop him from the side. Now, CBS Sport claim Arsenal are prepared to part ways with Partey this summer, and three clubs from Saudi Arabia, Al Nasser, Al Ahly, and Al Khalij, are all keen to sign him. Partey still has 2 years left on his contract at Arsenal. This would be a risky move by Arsenal. Contractually, letting Partey go when he has just 2 years left on his contract makes sense, especially when wealthy clubs from Saudi Arabia are splashing huge cash on players in this window. However, selling both Partey and Granit Xhaka in the same window means Arsenal will have to field a brand new midfield when they return to the Champions League next season. That could backfire for Mikel Arteta's side, as a settled midfield is always more reliable than one that's still adapting. £100,000 a week star Crystal Palace wanted last summer has been put up for sale. The latest report suggests that Arsenal star Eddie Nketiah will be available this summer, and this will no doubt alert Crystal Palace as they apparently tried to sign him last summer. According to the latest report from the Daily Mail, Arsenal are looking to sell some of their fringe players. Eddie Nketiah is one of those allowed to leave. Crystal Palace have been heavily linked with the forward for a year or two now. Back in January 2020, Sky Sport reported that Arsenal rejected multiple bids from Palace for the player. More recently, a report from The Telegraph last summer stated that Palace attempted to sign Nketiah. In the end, he signed a new contract at Arsenal. It's no shock to see Arsenal allow Nketiah to leave the club. Despite signing a new contract last season, the striker failed to make an impact. The FA Cup winner, who is currently on £100,000 a week, played 30 times in the Premier League during 22-23. Despite this, he only scored 4 goals, and only 9 of these appearances were starts. With the Eagles possibly losing Wilfried Zaha this summer, they will no doubt want to improve their attack. Although the two play in different positions, Zaha provided a fair few goals for the Eagles, and Nketiah has proven that he can find the back of the net when playing more consistently. In the 21-22 season, Nketiah was given starts towards the end of the campaign. He started the last 8 games and proved his worth by scoring 5 goals. Palace also currently only have 2 natural strikers at the club. They need to bolster this position, so returning to make a move for Nketiah seems like a clever option. The only stumbling block, no doubt, would be his wages. Arsenal midfielder ready to turn down move to stay for one more season. Arsenal midfielder Jorginho is set to turn down a move to Italy and stay at the Emirates for one more season. A report from the Evening Standard suggests the 31-year-old doesn't want to leave the Gunners yet. Mikel Arteta appears very keen to upgrade his options in midfield this summer. He started last season with Thomas Partey in the holding role and Granit Xhaka playing as a number 8. They both had fantastic seasons, although Partey's form dropped off towards the end of the campaign. Incredibly, both players could be heading for the exit this summer, with Xhaka set to return to the Bundesliga and Partey potentially off to Saudi Arabia. Arsenal have been heavily linked with Declan Rice, while Romeo Lavia is another option being considered, and Kai Havertz could play in midfield when he signs. Despite all this, Jorginho is keen to stay at Arsenal this summer and fight for his place in the team. He has already proved in his short time at the club that he can be a valuable asset. The report from the Evening Standard suggests Jorginho isn't interested in joining Lazio in Serie A. The £110,000 a week midfielder has reportedly told France he is comfortable in London and wants to make a success of his time at Arsenal. When Jorginho signed in January, some Arsenal fans were underwhelmed as he wasn't having his best season at Chelsea. Arsenal had missed out on Moses Caicedo, and the Italian international was signed as an alternative to the Ecuadorian wonderkid. When Thomas Partey picked up an injury, all eyes were on whether Jorginho could step up in his place. Although Arsenal lost his first game against Everton, he ended up replacing the Ghanaian in midfield by the end of the season. Arteta would reportedly prefer Partey to stay at Arsenal over Jorginho this summer. However, Partey is a much more sellable asset, which might persuade Arteta to part with him this summer. Jorginho could prove to be a useful squad player this season, with Arsenal having to prepare for Champions League football. The Italian also knows how to win the biggest competitions, and that experience can prove to be invaluable. How Arteta convinced Havertz to seal a transfer and the new role he has planned for Chelsea misfit. Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta reportedly won Kai Havertz over with his vision for how to get the best out of him after a difficult spell at Chelsea. The Germany international's imminent arrival at the Emirates Stadium may well be getting a mixed reception from Arsenal fans, but it seems clear that Arteta obviously sees something in the player that's worth taking a gamble on. According to The Athletic, big names like Real Madrid and Bayern München were also admirers of Havertz, but wouldn't pay as much as Arsenal. While it seems Arteta also played a key role in convincing the 24-year-old to join, a big part of that seems to be using Havertz in a new position, away from the number 9 role he seemed to struggle so much in for much of his time at Stamford Bridge. The Athletic suggests Havertz is seen as more of a replacement for Granit Xhaka than an out-and-out attacking player, so we could see him occupy a midfield role with a bit of freedom to go forward and contribute in the box as well. That would be more like how Havertz was used at Bayer Leverkusen, where he became regarded as one of the finest young players in Europe, so we could see an exciting reinvention of the player under Arteta. Arsenal eyeing one of the most highly rated midfield prospects in Europe. The latest from reliable journalist Fabrizio Romano has stated that Arsenal have asked to be kept informed around the future of Xavi Simons. Arsenal are looking to build a better squad to make sure that they can compete with Manchester City for the title once again. They were looking good last season, but started to drop off towards the end of the campaign. Now, Mikel Arteta wants to build on a successful season and make sure it's not just a one-off. Xavi Simons is the latest to be linked via Romano. The young Dutchman has massively impressed since moving to PSV from Paris Saint-Germain and looks to be a very exciting talent. Simons is an excellent attacking star. This was emphasized by his impressive season with PSV, in which he scored 19 goals and assisted 9 times in 34 appearances. The 20-year-old attacking midfielder has also featured 4 times for Holland. Romano provided an update on his future. His report states that PSG have a buyback clause that is very cheap. Romano tweeted, Paris Saint-Germain buyback clause for Xavi Simons is just €6 million. It can only be activated in July. From 1 July to 31 July, the final decision is only up to the player. He is waiting to hear from PSG. Man United, Arsenal, Brighton, Spurs, Dortmund and Leipzig asked to be informed. This is a huge news from Romano. The fact that PSG can bring the Wonder Kid back to France for just over £5 million definitely means they are leading the race. Football Transfers hailed Simons as one of the most highly rated midfield prospects. Of course, this will be frustrating for fans of the Gunners. The positive at the moment is the fact that PSG have not pursued this option yet. Journalist says it may be too late to stop world-class player joining Arsenal. It may be too late to stop Declan Rice from joining Arsenal. That's according to Johnny Cross, who was speaking on Sky Sport Back Pages podcast about the English midfielder. The world-class player has been strongly linked with Arsenal for months at this point, and while two bids have been rejected on that front so far, Cross is of the opinion that Rice is already dead set on a move to Arsenal. Indeed, Cross says that Rice's mind may be made up and it could be late for Manchester City or any other club to come in and hijack this deal. Cross gave his verdict on the midfielder. He said, I think Arsenal and West Ham are just going through a process now, and it's being played out very publicly. Previously, it would have been a bit quieter. Other clubs would be interested in Rice. Man City have been the rumors in the past few days, but they are signing Mateo Kovacic. I do think Rice is a preferred option, or what he has set in his head is Arsenal, and I do think he is almost made up his mind. So I wonder whether other clubs are leaving it too late and Arsenal will just thrash out this business. This just goes to show how important it's to set your stall out early. We have all known since January that Declan Rice was the one player Arsenal wanted more than anyone else this summer, and the player has seemingly really appreciated that level of long-standing interest. Rice has been wooed by Arsenal, and while the treble-winning champions of Europe may want to sign him, it looks as though the Gunners have already done enough to get this deal done, but we have to finish this deal soon because, according to Gianluca Di Marzio, City are now strongly entering the race for Rice and are preparing a bid for the midfielder. Romano suggests Arsenal closing in on Jurriën Timber deal after Havertz. Arsenal are making great progress in the early stages of the 2023 summer transfer window. The Gunners appear to have already got one new major signing on board. According to multiple sources, including Fabrizio Romano, Arsenal are closing in on Kai Havertz. The Gunners are reportedly also still in talks over Declan Rice, who is proving a tad more difficult signing. Then we have Jurriën Timber, who Arsenal are reportedly confident of signing from Ajax. According to TalkSport, Arsenal reportedly made an initial offer of £30 million, which the Dutch giants turned down. However, Timber has apparently made it clear to his club's hierarchy that he wants to join the Gunners this summer. Romano has now spoken to Give Me Sport about the state of play involving Arsenal and the 22-year-old defender. He said, Yes, I think they will bid again. There is a conversation between Arsenal and Ajax, and on the player's side, the conversation is very positive. So it looks like a very concrete deal between Arsenal and Ajax for Jurriën Timber, and also on the player's side. Arsenal's defense could do with strengthening, and Timber would no doubt be a good shout for Mikel Arteta's side. Virgil van Dijk has called him a great player and believes he has so much potential, tipping him for a big future. And as per FBref, Timber is amongst the best performing centre-backs in Europe across a number of areas. Breaking the Lines deemed him one of the most exciting defensive prospects in football right now. Timber can also play at right back, which obviously comes in handy for an Arsenal side that have had issues there. Let's see what happens in the coming weeks, but this is certainly a very promising lead. I will be uploading daily Arsenal news, so keep your eyes on the channel and don't forget to like and subscribe. I appreciate your support. Peace out.